So we're getting into responsibilities of installers. A certified NuWater installer shall possess a current installer license as well as endorsement from us as a certified installer, and you'll get the certificate here today. Installer should, as a matter of practice, record his or her license number. They're basically just to be so there's no mysteries for the customer. Installer must provide true and accurate information on any application and other documentation. Installer shall only install what's been authorized by the permitting authority. We want to make sure everything's permitted, right? We're not in the business of selling bootleg systems. Installers responsible for requesting inspections. We don't deal with the if you got a county health department inspection, you would work with your designer, but the installer is ultimately responsible for that. And a licensed or a certified NuWater installer shall be present at the job site during construction of the system. And this last item, or one of these items here that is underlined, really is a sticking point for us. It's really important. The installer must clearly indicate on the contract with the owner that included with the purchase price of the system are the first 2 years of maintenance inspections as required by the manufacturer and NSF. This includes a total of 4 inspections at 6, 12, 18, and 24 months. The maintenance for the entire system as required by the local jurisdiction must be included in the purchase price. So now typically that last line that says the maintenance of the entire system, the state code requires all advanced treatment systems to be inspected annually. Now, the NuWater part of this system for the first 2 years needs to be inspected twice a year. So typically, what this means is, what our minimum is, that you at the 6-month interval you inspect the NuWater, at the 1 year interval you inspect everything, as required by the county. The county will require what the state requires. So if you have a maintenance inspection, whatever the county requires is required, but we require at a minimum that the NuWater be inspected every 2 years for the first, or every 6 months for the first 2 years, and that's something that for us is kind of a sticking point for these installers that have they say, well, I don't do it this way or whatever. We don't want to have one installer providing one way and one guy doing it another way. Everybody has to have the installer manage or supervise this. Do either of you guys do maintenance also? Mm-hmm. Okay. So you'd want to, do you do maintenance? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you do maintenance, you just roll it right in with your bid. You'd say your installation and backfill of a NuWater to pressure distribution system. If your price is, let's say it's $15,000 for your price for installation and backfill, then you say line item 2 years of maintenance as required by NuWater. Yeah. You can say whatever your price is, $500 for 2 years of maintenance. So it's clear that this is included with the system. Now, if you don't do O&M, you'll want to find a maintenance contractor that is willing to do the O&M, and I can get you some names from some local guys, okay, just north and just south of you. But you get a maintenance provider that's willing to do your maintenance for you. If you get a good working relationship with a maintenance contractor that is willing to, you may have a line item. Let's say same bid, $15,000 for installation and backfill of a NuWater system, and then line item 2 years of maintenance, $500, and that's kind of the going rate is $125 per inspection, about, right? I mean, some guys are a little bit more, some guys are a little bit less. If you get a good relationship with somebody, maybe they give you a little better price, hoping for that long-term work down the road. But after the first 2 years, presumably the customer is accustomed to these people coming out and maintaining their system, and by then they're going to be ready to sign on as an annual customer to get that annual maintenance done.
That's what you guys hope after that 2 years is once a year, like the county.
Yeah, after that it's up to we see, because our warranty is for 2 years.
Okay,
so we require that the system be maintained in order for the warranty to be valid.
Makes sense.
So it all kind of ties together that way. After that, it's up to what the county requires. So say Lewis County might have a less active O&M program, right? And it may be just kind of a voluntary basis. Well, it's up to you or the maintenance provider, and this is what I recommend. Before your maintenance contract, your first 2 year maintenance contract expires, look for an opportunity to take the customer out to once your tanks lids are all open, welcome the customer out and say, hey, here's what I do. Just so you know what I do. Here's what I'm doing. You test the sludge return, show them your stuff, and they're going to take one look in that tank hole and they're going to say, man, I'm glad I'm hiring you to do this. And you'll have a customer for decades, right? Versus if you
most of them don't even know.
But if you just send them a bill and they didn't even see whether you came or not, that's a different story. But if they can see that this guy, as part of his thing, he uncovers the lids, he tests this blower, he checks this, he goes back to the blower housing and show them how you take that little thing off, and you check the air pressure, check the alarm, all these things, they'll realize that even though it's only 15 minutes of work, they're glad to pay you that $125 a time to come out and do that. And if you do it efficiently, you can go from job to job to job to job and get a bunch of them done. And it can be a profitable thing. But to get that customer in a county like, say, Lewis County, when it's kind of voluntary, even though the state code requires it, it's kind of voluntary. So most people don't do it, believe it or not, even though the code requires it. Yeah. So it's up to a professional to put on the sales hat and say, here, I can do this for you. Here's what I do, and not make it a situation. Well, we're only doing this because the state requires it, and you could get away without it, right? It would be good for these systems to be maintained. So if you can sell that idea to them, that here's what we do, and here's about what it costs, or the customer will be glad once they see it in operation with the tank lids open. Believe it or not, it's a big selling point. I like to see.
It's cheap insurance.
It is cheap insurance. They're willing always to take their car. They can take it down to the Toyota dealer and spend hundreds of dollars a year on maintenance. In reality, they could probably skip out on some of that, but they do it because it's an investment in their car. Here they got a $15,000 septic system or a $12,000, whatever it is, and it's out of sight, out of mind. They're not climbing into it every day like they do their car. Yeah. But if they can see that here's their system and it's in operation, it's doing a good job, and now you understand, and they will. Once the decision maker sees what you're doing, they'll be pretty glad to write that check on an annual basis. So that is required by us and by Anna, but basically we insist that you provide that as a line item on your bid. It must be clearly indicated. Now, what you can do if you don't provide it, let's say for you, Dave, if you had a line item, 2 years of maintenance, $500, or maybe in the job location, maybe the 2 years of maintenance costs $600 or $700. You could put an asterisk after your line item and say asterisk. You may hire a NuWater certified maintenance provider of your own and reduce this amount, this $600 cost or whatever, but you need to show me that you've hired that person.
Yeah.
But it needs to be clear. No surprises. That's the big thing. We don't want to have the customer think, because I've gotten those calls. They get a customer call me. They're doing their research online. They find out, hey, this was supposed to come with it. And then they call me and they're upset that some contractor they hired says, well, you pay the guy cash when he comes out, or when they got some arrangement with some maintenance. No surprises. The customers, as soon as there's surprises, the trust is gone. So,
does the O&M person that comes out in those first 4 appointments, do they report to NuWater?
No.
So how does NuWater know that we're doing our first 4 appointments?
We have so if there where you have if there's any warranty claims, we want to see the documentation. So we require. So here's, I'll go through the maintenance duties, but one of the maintenance contract, we require that you keep documentation of your maintenance.
Okay.
So hopefully everything goes good and I'll never have to ask for it.
Yeah.
But if I ever have to ask for it and you don't have it, then I can start going back and saying, okay, what about this job? What about this job? What about this job? Because I've got record of all these NuWater addresses. I can go on to online RME for Pierce County, Thurston County, all these counties, and see how often they're being filed. And if I suspect that somebody's trying to get paid for it, let's say if you take the payment up front and then you never do it. I know there are contractors that have done that, right?
Yeah.
But if I catch on to it, they lose their certification and they can't maintain NuWaters any longer.
Right, yeah.
Because they're cheating the customers, right?
Yeah.
And then they may have a problem with that customer too, because the customer often, if that comes up, the customer is like, okay, here's my address, and I'm checking into it. I'm like, hey, you mean you've never seen the guy? You don't know? And so if that's the case, then you may have legal problems
Yeah.
or county problems. Because if you're taking money for someone and not doing the work, that's it can be like fraud. Yeah. So it really is something that I have tools to check, but I don't without a cause or if it doesn't come up as a warranty issue.
Someone that doesn't do O&M and you third party it to someone else that does, essentially it falls under the homeowner to maintain that system then at that time, correct? Because you're no longer doing it. You're no longer maintaining the third party.
The contractor should see the contractor provides a warranty for the first 2 years.
Okay.
So if he suspects that the maintenance guy isn't going to do it,
he needs to be on.
He needs to be on.
It's ultimately still on me for the first 2 years. It's not on the O&M guy to report.
The O&M guy is supposed to report. Is supposed to keep records of it.
Yeah.
In his own office, and whatever else is required by the county. So the county says, "Here's our filing system for septic maintenance.
Yeah.
The standard maintenance process." Then the county record keeping has to be done. But then all I care about is that someone has a record of it that's been done. And it can be a sketchy record. It could be a note, handwritten thing, whatever. I like the online RME thing, which Pierce County and a lot of these counties have. They go and where they file it online and it's a record. I can search all the NuWater systems on the state that are
build all the components to it and everything. That's nice.
Yeah, so it's all pre-built that way. So I don't know if Lewis County if they have a link to online RME or not, but a lot of the counties do.
They don't. But it's phenomenal. I mean, because we go out to jobs all the time where it's totally not what they even say in the online RMA, so we can change the whole thing. You ask for it to be unlocked and change components and accuracy, because you get pumpers out there. So it's 500 gallon tank. It's not a 500 gallon tank. It's 750 or it's an 800 or it's
So RME means responsible management entity. So it's something that was invented by Orenco, the guys at Orenco, and Orenco is our panel manufacturer, but it is something that. It's good technology. I like the fact that I can go in and search. 90% of the systems in the state are being recorded on online RME because 90% of the counties that are doing very many systems are on online RME. But so I do have ways of tracking. But that is something that we like working with good contractors.
Yeah.
And there are some guys we've had to threaten them with pulling their certification. And usually when they realize that I'm serious, they'll come around and straighten themselves out. Anyway, so maintenance duties. So we're going to get into the duties of the maintenance, and for Dave as an installer, this is something that you'll know what the maintenance duties are, so that when you're hiring it out, you'll have an idea what they're looking at. But basically, when you arrive on a site, you want to do an initial scan of the system for alarm conditions or obvious corrections. You have surfacing sewage, the obvious stuff. You want to uncover the lids, make sure everything's operating properly. Observe the performance of the digester. Check for consistent, even rolling pattern of the wastewater. We want to remove the low air alarm tube from the nipple in the panel. So that is that same description I showed earlier, where you take that, unthread that little collar, pull it off, check that for pressure right off the bat. And you're checking for water in the line at the same time. And that'll also test your low air alarm. As soon as you pull that tube off, the alarm should sound. Blow out tubing if necessary by capping the main port back at the blower, as we discussed earlier. We want to perform the sludge measurement in the trash tank. So your trash tank, and this is a trash tank, it's not a septic tank.
Yeah.
So if you have more than 24 inches of sludge, and that means it's building, it's starting to build to where there's a chance at some point it's going to start plugging your outlet baffle, then it's time to pump the trash chamber. You don't need to pump the whole system just due to that, but if it's getting more than 24 inches of sludge, you'd pump the trash chamber, which would naturally draw the second and third compartment down to the level of the outlet there.
Second question for O&M side of it. In your digester chamber, just per se, like your blower wasn't working properly, so you had an abnormal buildup of sludge in there. Would you need to pump it to install a new blower or something like that, or would you just put your new blower in and start telling it to shoot it back?
Yeah, the sludge return will take care of that. But if you have two things, the next item here says perform settled solids check from the digester. So there's some guys will have like a jar on a stick or whatever.
Yeah.
You'll reach down, just the water's just rolling and mixing. So you just grab a sample out of there with your jar and set it there. And actually that's one of the first things you're going to do, because if you're doing that, let it settle for 10-15 minutes while you're doing the rest of your duties, which may mean running the pump, whatever else is needed for the system. While you're wetting, you can measure the settleable solids. A good NuWater system that's working properly, probably going to be between 2 and 10% settleable solids.
Well, but
It's not going to have a bunch, yeah. But if you get up getting closer to what the guideline is, says have it pumped if it reaches 40%.
okay.
If you got 40%, that probably also means your sludge level right here is nearly on the outlet. That means a lot of sludge is spilling right in there as you get a high solids count, which usually means someone's got some bacteria problems, some chemicals, some antibacterial soap, something's going on in the house if that's that high. But yeah, usually what's going to happen is you're going to have this guy here will build this trash chamber, will build a sludge level. It'll usually stabilize somewhere, I'm guessing 18 to 24 inches. It'll stabilize somewhere in there. And as a maintenance provider, if you see this hitting, let's say after 1 year it's at 18 inches, at 2 years it's at 19 inches, if it's stabilizing at 20, you can see it's going to hang out about 24 and a half inches.
Yeah.
Don't pump it on account of that, right? Just because it's met that 24-inch threshold. If it's creeping up fast enough where you're going to see that, this is going to get close to plugging that outlet baffle. And also, when you see that, it'll start, when it gets closer to that outlet level, you're going to start seeing higher percentage of settleable solids in the digester also.
And when it hits the 40%, you should for sure pump right away.
And you're going to pump everything.
Everything,
Yeah. And I would say 40% is pretty that's kind of beyond. I would say if it's at 25% or something, I would probably say it's probably a good time to pump. That 40% is from the manufacturer. I'm not sure why. That seems a little high for me. So then we want to, item number 6 here, it says perform visual check of discharging effluent for clarity. So if you look into your outlet here, this is a white tee, so you can look right into that tee. You can see the water going out of it. Usually there's a little bit of like some kind of growth around the edges of the fittings or something, but that water leaving should be clear and odorless. If desired, you can pull samples of that outlet water, and for pH, we should see it between 6 and 9, dissolved oxygen between 1 and 4. Typically, we see DO numbers about 2 to 3. Turbidity, which is measured in NTUs, between 2 and 18 NTUs is typical. Those are, if you're into a lot of troubleshooting, and some of the bigger maintenance providers will have the tools for measuring dissolved oxygen and turbidity. It's not a bad troubleshooting tool. So if you had a lot of commercial sites or something where you're really concerned with these things, those are good tools to have, the DO and turbidity meters. Item number 7, we want to remove the filter element from the aerator and clean with soapy water, which would be basically this guy here. You pull this screw out, make sure that it's clean. You can do a visual check on it. If it doesn't need clean, don't bother cleaning it, but if it has any filter, any dirt on it. Check components for buildup such as ant beds or grasses. So basically around your vents especially, we don't want to have a lot of overgrown stuff. If someone's doing their weed eating and that stuff's all plugging the vent for your air inlet, make sure that remains clear. Test the operation of the sludge return by temporarily switching the blower to manual on that switch inside. So I went through that before. You hold down that minute button for 2 seconds. You'll see the screen change. Then that minute button becomes the toggle. Remember to press the set button afterwards to return it to the automatic mode. So then after that, you want to inspect the remainder of the system per county requirements, including but not limited to, and this would be on your annual check. Check UV light if it's there, test pump discharge rate, test the alarm, lift your high water alarm float, make sure the system's pumping properly, flush lines if necessary, etc. Okay. So for maintenance contract requirements, ongoing maintenance requirements are required for advanced treatment. The installer of the system shall provide the owner of the system with information regarding the maintenance at the time the system is installed, and either agree to provide the maintenance or contract it to a qualified individual who can. So the contract should specify the following. So basically what you want to do, and this is important that we don't have a lot of surprises, so that the you want to list the items covered by the contract. So if you're going to have a maintenance contract with someone, if they expect it to have a bumper-to-bumper warranty coverage on the whole system, make sure it's clear that whether that's included or not. What I recommend you do is say, typically, most people don't want to do a bumper-to-bumper coverage. And a bumper-to-bumper coverage would be something like, well, we've got an office machine here that's it's managed by Rico or whoever it is, and then if anything ever goes wrong with it, their tech comes out, within a few hours and fixes it, no cost to us. But we pay a monthly fee for that guarantee. It's expensive, but we've got a business to run. We can't afford to have downtime. So there are service contracts like that. And if you want to provide that type of coverage, there may be customers that are willing to pay that premium. Most of them are not going to be willing to pay that premium though.
It's just a septic system.
Yeah, it's just a septic system.
That's what
yeah.
people,
Yeah. But there's a time for if you're in the right environment, right area, there's money in there, people they want to. It could be something that they're interested in, right? And if that's the case, that's an option. But what I recommend is, at a minimum, say, my contract it provides you inspection every 6 months for the first 2 years, and that inspection includes one trip out, no follow-up inspections, unless they're warranty covered or unless there's that. Alarm calls, if there's a separate fee for an alarm call, make sure that's the case, that it's spelled out. Alarm calls are billed out at a rate of whatever, an hour or something. So there's no surprises, and that's the big thing, is the customers don't expect one thing and get something different. If it's lined out, if it says in the contract,
In black and white.
you can say, here's what it says in the contract, here's our contract, you signed it, remember?
Mm-hmm.
This covers my inspection only, and after that, any alarm calls. If someone has an alarm call and it's under warranty, let's say that's a slightly different deal. And if you're the installer and the O&M provider, and let's say the blower fails after 4 months, right? Which can happen. There's been a few of them that we don't know why, but they failed, right? It shouldn't happen, but we provide the parts on the warranty. There's no cost to you on the parts, but as the installer, if the blower fails, the alarm call comes, and you get out there and, the blower's bad. This alarm call is something that, unfortunately, as the installer, you're absorbing your time. You call me, I ship you a new blower, or the distributor ships you a new blower, whoever that is, and we do an exchange. Now, you're out an hour or two of your time, right? That's part of being the contractor of record providing the labor warranty. It's a 2-year labor warranty. We are the material warranty for any materials in the first 2 years. So if you get called out on an alarm call though, and they left their toilet running, high water alarm went off. Hey, your toilet's running. Those people should get a bill for that service call.
Yeah.
And we recommend you be fair, but so that there's some process. So they understand on their maintenance contract what's included and what's not. You should specify a time frame in which the maintenance company will visit the site in response to an alarm or a complaint. Specify the name of the individual. So we don't want to have, if possible, we don't want to have like mysteries as to who's going to show up. You don't want to subcontract it out to another guy or whatever. We don't want to. Trust and stability is important. Identify the frequency of required maintenance so that they know it's for the first 2 years, it's every 6 months. After that, it's annual. And then we do require that the installer or the maintenance provider keep a maintenance record within their own files. It can be electronic or whatever, but submit maintenance reports to the permitting authority as required. So if the county requires you to submit maintenance reports, submit them to the county. If the county just is a passive county, we require that the maintenance be done for the first 2 years. After that, it's up to the customer to hire you to. We're not going to say, oh, you have to maintain it if no one's willing to pay you for it. If the county won't enforce it, the customers, if they don't buy into the idea of getting maintenance done, they may not be willing to pay for it. But that's where a few minutes of a good salesman doing the thing, come out to the tank and let's see what we can do. I'll show you what we're doing. most of the customers will want that done. There's some cases where you have a renter, and the renter doesn't care, they want to abuse the system anyway. But the landlord should know, hey, you're really needing this done. Your renter is the type that's gonna, they don't care about the septic system. So this is even more important that the maintenance be done if there's a landlord. But a lot of landlords are simply investors, and they don't, they're not into, all they want is the profits. They don't care so much about the details, but if they can see that, hey, this system needs to be maintained so that the renter can be kept in, all the systems kept in check. There's various ways of going about it. Basically, the main thing is that the system should be maintained, and we recommend you do what you can to fit it within your business model. So, if the system is, if the maintenance contract is terminated, so let's say if they say go away, never come back, and it's still under warranty, just tell me about it so I can record, hey, this job at such and such address, these people they fired the maintenance provider, it's not being maintained. If I get a warranty call 6 months later, the system's not being maintained, so therefore it's not under warranty. So I don't get those
You're
calls
not
so
going to know if
often.
it's a warranty call anyways, because they're not going to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So, and that's within the first 2 years. If they've canceled their contract or whatever, just let me know then, because that warranty would be void then. It's the owner's responsibility to operate the system to the best of their ability. That would be the owner's responsibility as far as, like, we do recommend you tell them about don't use high strength waste, certain detergents, high in phosphates and so on, non-biodegradable items. We can go through a list of that. Concentrated cleaning agents, carpet shampoo waste, highly toxic chemicals, grease, lard. Basically, it's good for the customer to see that this is their system. Ultimately, what goes in is what comes out. And a lot of times, the people that have a high strength waste issue or a high volume waste issue, they're going to pay in the form of increased pumping frequency. If they're sending a lot of chemicals down the system, it's killing the bacteria. Sorry, your half system has to get pumped every 2 years instead of every 10 years. Well, it's going to hit your pocketbook at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
So there is a sample NuWater maintenance contract there on the back of that training manual, and we've got a few diagrams, and it kind of goes through the most of it.